Yasas Matites. Hello, students. We are continuing with this video to learn our Greek letters. This is lesson 2 out of 6. And as I said before, we're going to learn the letters 4 at a time, and we're not learning them in order. We're learning the most common ones first. Before watching this video, you really need to be sure you studied the first video and the 4 letters that were introduced there. It is not helpful to watch this one until you know the other ones, especially what they look like, what they sound like, and if you're really serious about learning how to write them, because you should be writing everything that you see. Okay, ας αρχίσουμε. Let's start. Okay, so let's start with the first letter. It's pronounced taf. Taf. That's actually the name of the gramma of the letter, and it's the same as the letter T. It makes a t sound. It's possible that some of you have a math or science teacher who calls this letter tau. They shouldn't do that. Hopefully, they'll watch this video and learn that Greeks call it taf. Okay, the one under that is called iota. Iota. And iota is just its name. Its sound is a long E. Okay, like we might say easy or Easter. E. There are lots of ways of making the E sound. Okay, so we've got taf and iota. So we can make this very easy word. T. T. And T means what? Now, if you write it this way, with what looks like a semicolon, it's still T, but the way you say it is different, because this semicolon in Ellinika, in Greek, is the erotimatiko, the question mark. We don't use question marks like this one in Ellinika. Okay? So, let's look at these 2 words that I've written here. First we have D, and then we have D. D? What? Okay, it's a very important word to know. So now on the right side we have our iota and our taf. 2 more letters that we're going to learn are omicron, omicron, which really just means o micro, the small o. Okay, and it should be one of the easier letters, if not the easiest, to learn. It just makes an o sound. Okay, that's a vowel. And then we have one that confuses a lot of people. This is the ro, ro. That's the name of the letter, ro. And we pronounce it as a trilled R. And what that means is you have to try to practice and roll your tongue to make this rrr sound. Why does it confuse people? Well, it really looks like a P, doesn't it? Okay, we write it like this. I'm going to show you in yellow. We just make a stroke from the bottom and the circle there, and that's your ro. And you'll see that the capital letter also looks like a P. So try not to get confused there. This is the right time to learn it. So now if you look at the top, you can see that over the first 2 lessons, we have learned 4 of the 7 vowels that we have in Ellinika. Okay, and the sounds are a, e, and o. And we have the 4 consonants that we've learned so far. Like Maria, and like Nancy, ro, which is pretty close to the English R, and our t, like tomorrow. And with just these 8 letters, we can say a lot. Let's look at these. Now, as I advised you in the last video, this is a good time to pause and see if you can read them. The meaning is not important. Can you say them? The first one is to. And to is a very useful word because it's one of the many ways of saying the. The next one is ti, which we've already talked about. Ti, which is what? Next we have tomati. Tomati. Remember that this oxia, okay, this acute accent is going to be put over the vowel, over the syllable that is pronounced with more emphasis, that's stressed. Tomati. You very rarely see it over a word that only has one syllable. And if you do, there's a reason for it. But for now, we're not going to worry about it too much. Tomati. And this is the I. Next, we have something very similar. Tamatya. Tamatya. And tamatya is the eyes. Next, we have mera. Mera. Mera is day. Then on the right side, we have nato. Nato. Nato is a very useful phrase. There it is. Nato. The next one is mia, which is one of the ways that we say one. Remember, we also have ena. Okay, so we have mia. Next, we have, and be careful with this one because that looks like a V, but remember, it's not. This is nero. Nero. And nero is water. Next we have miso. Miso. And miso means half. And the last one on this slide is a 3-syllable word. We have o, no, ma. Onoma, which is the name. Onoma. This might be a good time to pause and write these down. Okay, so you can get used to practicing your gramata, your letters. Okay, and you can build your vocabulary at the same time. Let's look at some more words that we can use with these letters. And again, I think it's a good idea to pause and see if you know them well enough to say them before I tell you what they sound like. The first word is nani. Nani. And nani is a childish way of saying bedtime. An adult would only say this if they were speaking to a child. The next one is ara. Ara. And ara is a very useful word. It means and so, or consequently, or therefore. Next, we have a word that ends with a letter we haven't technically learned, although I've introduced it to you. This is a sigma. It's a type of S. And this word is meros. Meros is place. So if you go to a park, you can say, oh, Inoreo Meros. It's a nice place. We also use meros when we want to talk about going to the bathroom. Because in those of you who speak American English know we don't really like to say, oh, I have to go to the toilet. No, it doesn't sound very clean when we say it in American English. So in Greek, instead of referring to the toilet, which you can do, we just say, θέλω να πάω στο μέρος. I want to go to the place, the place where I do my, that place. meros. Next we have mono, mono. And mono is just or only. So if you listen to music in mono, the sound coming from both headphones or both speakers is the same. Mono just means one or only or just. Next we have teras. Teras. Teras is the monster. And we also use this when we talk about technology. If you have a megabyte, it is a big byte of information. If you have a gigabyte, well, giga means gigantic, mega means big, gigabyte is gigantic. And if you have a terabyte from teras, you have something that is monstrously big, much bigger than a gigabyte. So these words, yes, they're Greek, and we're looking at them here with Greek letters, but we have them in a lot of the other languages that we know. The next one is tonos. Tonos. And tonos is a very useful word. It can be a ton, like I have a ton of work to do. And it can also be the stress or the tone, okay, the stressed syllable. And it can also be a tuna, okay, tonos. The next one is a word that unfortunately is used a lot these days, ios. Ios is a virus, like koronoios, okay, the coronavirus, ios. The next one is dromos, dromos, which means fear or terror. The next one is treno, treno. And some of you might be able to guess this one. Treno is the train. Now there's another way of spelling this, but this is the easier one, and it's the one that we can spell based on what we've learned so far. Treno. It's not a Greek word, it's actually Latin, but it still helps us because it sounds the same in so many languages. And next we have tria. Tria, which is the number 3. And it's pretty useful if you can get used to finding the clues in these words. Tri, like in tricycle and triangle and trilingual and triceratops. Tri or tria, oh, it almost sounds like 3. So there are lots of words here that sound like ones we already have. So make sure you practice these as much as you can. Practice reading them, saying them aloud, and writing them. Let's move on. Now you can say things like na ena treno. Na ena treno. There is a train, or there is one train. Next we have na to treno. Na to treno. There is the train. Next we have mono mia mera. Mono mia mera. You've seen all of these words before. If you're not sure what these mean, you can just rewind this and go back and check. Mono mia mera. Only one day, or just one day. Next we have monoena. Monoena. Only one, just one. Και μετά έχουμε, and then we have mono ένα τρένο. Only one train, just one train. So if you go to the station after missing a train and you want to buy a ticket for the next one, the station master might say, I'm sorry, mono ένα τρένο. There's just one train. You have to wait until tomorrow. And the last one, mono ένα τέρας. Only one monster. Just one monster. Oh, I can take this guy. It's just one monster. So here are the grammata that we've done over 2 videos, and you can see that most of them, the capital letters, are not that difficult, right? The capital alpha looks like an A, the capital epsilon looks like an E, the capital Mi looks like an M, the capital Ni looks like an N, the capital Iota looks like an I, okay? Although in English, Iota is 2 letters. It's an I when it's a vowel, and it's a J when it's a consonant. The Omicron certainly looks like an O, and the Taf looks like a T. The problem here, of course, is this guy. Now, it's interesting to note that in ancient Greece, there were some Greeks who spelled the Rho, who wrote this letter Rho like this. Believe it or not, it used to have that extra leg there that we're used to seeing in the English R. In the Latin R, I should say. Okay, but in modern Greek, they kept this one. There's a separate way of writing P. So, these are the 8 letters that we have. Hopefully you'll get busy working with them, and you'll be ready for video 3 once it's posted. Yasas! Telos!